Move over, Jason, Michael, Freddy, and Leatherface. There's a new horror icon slashing up the theaters this weekend, and his name is Pooh Bear? Welcome to the channel, everyone. I just finished watching Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, the new horror film by British filmmaker Rhys Frake-Waterfield. Now, for those who don't know, Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain last year, and it wasn't long after that Frake-Waterfield announced his intentions of making a horror film featuring the lovable bear as a villainous slasher. Now, this is certainly a divisive concept. I'm sure there are just as many people put off by the idea as there are those who are excited by it. If you're one of those folks who finds it repugnant to turn a classic character from children's literature into a murderous villain, then this clearly isn't a movie for you. And the answer is pretty simple. Don't buy a ticket. But for me, the appeal is similar to the fascination people have over the friendship between Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg. It's the incongruity that makes it interesting and fun. And while this isn't a perfect movie, I thought it was fun. But I'll be the first to admit that my tastes are probably a bit more twisted than most. The movie opens with an illustrated prologue that gives a little backstory on the friendship between Christopher Robin, Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, Owl, Rabbit, and Eeyore, and how the animals felt betrayed and abandoned when Christopher left for college. Left to fend for themselves, the desperately hungry creatures resort to unspeakable acts in order to survive, and build up a particular hatred for humans. This is where our story begins. Now, this film apparently cost less than $100,000 to make, which in movie terms is a minuscule budget. And Rhys Frake-Waterfield's previous credits include a horror movie called The Killing Tree about a demonic Christmas tree, and an action film called Fire-Nado. So my expectations going in were tempered, to say the least. But this prologue was actually very well done, and the opening shots of the film further alleviated my fears. I was halfway expecting a completely amateurish-looking film made with completely no skill whatsoever, and while the movie does have its problems, I can tell you that it looks and sounds great. And if you've seen as many bad films as I have, you know that that's an achievement in and of itself. The film picks up 5 years later as Christopher Robin returns to the 100-Acre Wood to introduce his wife to Pooh and his other friends. It doesn't take long to realize that things aren't quite right, and I won't spoil what happens, but let's just say this isn't the happy reunion that Christopher Robin was hoping for. The film then jumps to a therapist's office where we meet Maria, who's trying to cope with a traumatic experience of her own. Next, we join Maria and her girlfriends as they make their way to a cabin in the 100-Acre Wood for a weekend getaway. And then the story bounces over to a friend of theirs who is driving separately and has gotten lost. Things don't go well for her. Then we're back with Christopher Robin for a bit, then back to the cabin where Maria tells her friends about a man who entered her home one night and assaulted her. There's an effective flashback that helps tell this story, and while it also helps to establish Maria as potentially the film's final girl, it's never referred to again and doesn't come full circle, so it kind of feels out of place. The problem with all of this jumping around back and forth is that it makes the flow of the film's first act feel very uneven and disjointed. I would have saved Christopher Robin's return to the 100-Acre Wood for much later in the film. I would have scrapped the scene in the therapist's office and picked up right after the prologue with the girls' arrival at the cabin. But nobody consulted me, so we get what we get. From here, the movie goes into full slasher mode, as the girls are stalked and killed by Pooh and Piglet. There are some genuinely creepy and suspenseful moments, like the one where a buxom, bikini-clad gal is taking selfies in a hot tub and then notices something in the background of one of the shots. She zooms in and sees Pooh watching her from a distance. And then there are some genuinely stupid moments, where the characters do the dumbest thing possible. Like the one where a buxom, bikini-clad gal realizes that a half-bear, half-human creature is creeping on her and decides to get back in the hot tub and pretend everything is fine and dandy. As Julia Roberts would say, big mistake. Big. Huge. Now, I suspect that a lot of people will be put off by the level of violence and gore in this film, As a self-confessed gore hound, that's one of the aspects of the film I admired most. I like a horror movie that goes for it and doesn't hold back. Especially if the story isn't great and the actors aren't very good. You can always redeem yourself and your film with a lot of gooey, gory splatter. But a lot of people will see the violence in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey as cruel and mean-spirited because it kind of is. As I was leaving the theater, I overheard one audience member say that she was picking up on some serious Jason Voorhees vibes. Well, no shit, it's a slasher movie. Of course there are going to be Jason vibes, and Michael Myers vibes, and Leatherface vibes. But what I was picking up on most were Art the Clown vibes. When Jason, Michael, and Leatherface kill people, they just, for the most part, methodically kill them. No fuss, no muss. But Art the Clown doesn't just kill people, he eviscerates them, and there's a level of sadism that can be hard to stomach. There's a similar vibe to the kills in Blood and Honey. Pooh and Piglet don't express the same level of joy or satisfaction in their deeds as Art the Clown does, but there's a palpable sadism to the way they dispose of their victims that might just leave a rumbly in your tumbly. Now look, this isn't a great movie or even necessarily a good one. It's uneven at times, the dialogue is not great, and the characters make some stupid decisions. But the movie is never boring. At just under an hour and a half, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's well-paced and keeps things moving. I really liked the film's musical score, and while I didn't find the movie very scary, it does have its moments of creepiness and suspense. And it's got some gnarly kills with some pretty good practical effects. I recognize that it has its faults, but I was entertained by Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and I applaud the effort. I'm giving it 2.5 out of 4 stars. Have you seen Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? If so, what did you think? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day.